everyone, and welcome back to more virtual story time from your very own Newark Public Library. As always, we are recording this live story stream on land that rightfully belongs to the Lenape Indian tribe. And if you are tuning in from anywhere in our fair city of Newark, New Jersey, it is quite likely that you also are on land that rightfully belongs to the Lenape Indians. I am your very proud host, Mix Alley. That is Mix just like mixing bowl, not to be confused with Ms., Miss, Mr., or Mrs., because as you can see, I'm not a boy, I'm not a girl either. I am a non-binary unicorn, and my storytelling companion is also a unicorn, although not a non-binary one. Please welcome back Jonathan Van Unicorn! Hello, everyone! I'm delighted to see you again. You know, Jonathan, it made me feel really good just now to be able to introduce myself as a non-binary unicorn. Oh, Mix Alley, I think I know why you did that. Do you? Yes, it's because this morning, in honor of LGBTQ plus Pride Month, we read a story that explained what non-binary and transgender and all kinds of other words mean. We did indeed, and it was a great story. And we'll be reading more stories that explain why we're celebrating LGBTQ plus Pride Month in June. We'll be doing more of that next week. Oh, I can't wait. I love learning new words and new ideas and all about different kinds of people. Me too. But Jonathan, before we get too much further into this afternoon's virtual story time, I wanted to preview there's something that's going to be a little different about this afternoon's virtual story time. Oh my, what is it? We're not going to read more of our chapter book. But Mix Alley, we always read more of our chapter book in the afternoon. I know, Jonathan, I know, but the thing is, we left off at a very, very important and dramatic moment in Peter Pan this morning. Yes, I suppose we did. And we also read such a good and important story this morning, where we were learning all of those important new words that we use to describe different people's identities. Yes, I suppose that's true too. Yeah, so what I am honestly going to recommend, now that we are about to go into our weekend and have new stories for you on Monday, what I think would be best for anyone watching to do if they want to hear more about Peter Pan or if they want to learn more about why we celebrate Pride Month, I think it's a really good idea to go back and watch the video that we made at 11 a.m. this morning, June 5th, again. And this afternoon, we can give everyone a little time to process that information. We'll read a new folktale. Oh, wonderful! I was afraid you would be changing that around too, Mix Alley, and I just can't handle that much change. Yeah, no worries, Jonathan. Some things are constants in this life. We also, unfortunately, this morning, our video got cut off before we could do our unicorn dance party, which is always my time to shine, and I was very disappointed. Well, Jonathan, I'm going to make it up to you, because today we are going to go straight from our folktale right into a unicorn dance party, and then we're going to say farewell for the weekend. We'll see you Monday. And I'm extra excited about this unicorn dance party because I have a song for us all to listen to that really relates to what we learned this morning about different people's identities and what different people like, and how some people are boys, some people are girls, some people are something else. And so we're still going to get a chance to rock out to that song before we say, see you Monday. How does that sound? That sounds quite lovely. You know what, Mix Alley? tell me, Jonathan. There was a time when this change in plans would have made me feel very anxious, which is another word for worried or fearful, for feeling afraid. Oh yeah, Jonathan? Well, why isn't it having that effect on you now? Well, I admit it is still making me a little anxious, but McSally, thanks to the other stuff we've talked about this week, I've learned what to do when anxiety crops up on me so that I can stay brave and calm and do whatever needs to be done in the world. Jonathan, I am so glad to hear that. Do you want to let us know what you're going to do in order to stay brave in the face of this sudden change to our Storytime schedule? Oh yes, I'm going to scan for safety. Excellent, Jonathan. I'll do it with you while you explain to everyone how it works. All right, so get very comfortable in your seat. Whew, yes, that's very good. Okay, and now take a look to your right. Take a look to your left. You can go back and forth a few times, and as you're doing it, let your eye rest on whatever is around you that you happen to notice. For instance, I am seeing McSally's colorful lamp on their desk, and I am focused on one of these great posters of yoga unicorns that I have on my wall. Excellent! And so now that I've looked around and remembered that this is a familiar place, our virtual Storytime headquarters, where I feel very safe, I'm not really anxious anymore, McSally. It's certainly something to get used to that we are changing our Storytime schedule this afternoon, but I'm not afraid, and I can go through with Storytime. Jonathan, I am so glad to hear that. And again, if any of the rest of you watching have been practicing any of the strategies for dealing with anxiety that Jonathan Van Unicorn and I have been learning about this week, we'd love to hear about your experiences with that. Oh, yes, absolutely. I am always delighted to hear from my adoring fans. All right, Jonathan. Well, with that out of the way, do you feel ready to be relaxed and calm and listen to some stories now? I absolutely do, and then I think I just might be ready to dance. That's great to hear, Jonathan. All right, well, everyone else take a second to get cozy as well. And you know what? Here's one other thing I've been thinking about before I get our story started. We've talked about 5 actions you can take to manage anxiety this week. We talked about scanning for safety, like Jonathan and I just did, breathing in and out in a deep, mindful way, like we did this morning. There is using your 5 senses and noticing the things that you can sense around you. And finally, there is connecting. That's a weird way to do 4. I'm going to do it like this. The 4th one was connecting to your body, feeling the weight of it in whatever spot you're sitting or standing, and remembering you're safe in your body, which is your home. So another thing that's really helpful for staying in a place where you feel calm and brave is moving your body around. That's another way to be aware of the home that is your body and to keep it safe. So, I've got to admit, I do not always practice that very well during virtual story time because I stay in one position as much as I can. I don't want to, I get very anxious about rattling the camera or making any noise, and so I stay like this. And sometimes my body gets uncomfortable, but I don't do anything about it. And the reality is that that's not really what I want to do, or what I want to show as an example for any of you who are watching, because in fact, it is really hard to get comfortable and listen to a story when your body doesn't feel good. And sometimes our bodies need to move. So I'm going to be making a point, I'm going to challenge myself, to move into a different sitting position. every once in a while during virtual story time. Now you can't see my legs, but right now, I'll show them to you. I am sitting crisscrossed applesauce, just like a lot of you probably do in school. And I don't think that that will be very comfortable while I am reading to you. So I'm going to try another position. I am going to spread my legs out on either side of my computer. Oh, that feels a lot better. I'll take a moment to adjust the camera so that I know that you can still see me. I'm remembering that my shirt says high five on it, so I'm going to give myself a high five for taking good care of myself and avoiding anxiety. And I would really encourage you, you don't have to sit still through story time. If you need to move around a little in order to stay comfortable, that is okay. I think I'd be even more comfortable if I had a pillow or something behind me so I didn't have to lean so far back. That's better. See, I tell you all to get comfy so that you can listen to stories almost every time I do virtual story time, and I really mean it, but I haven't been showing you that I really mean it because I haven't been doing it for myself, and so I'm going to work hard to be better at that from now on. So now take a moment to really get comfortable for story time so that you can focus and take this time to relax. And with that, we're going to read another folktale from a different part of the world, which we do every afternoon. This is another story from the collection, The Maid of the North, Feminist Folktales from Around the World by Ethel Johnston Phelps. And the story we are going to read today is from a part of the world called Scandinavia. It is up north in Europe. It's often very cold there. A lot of the folk tales from there have trolls in them. We've read some of them before during our afternoon story time, but today we are going to read a story about giants. So this is The Giant's Daughter, a Scandinavian tale. A long time ago, giants and trolls dwelt in the high mountain forests above the northern fjords. They kept to themselves and had little to do with the people who lived in the valley below, except to scare the wits out of them now and again. Gina, the giant, was different. She was quite curious about the humans living in the little houses down in the valley and along the shore. Of course, she was still young, as giants go, and not fully grown. That would explain her foolishness, thought her father. She has the curiosity of a bear cub, grumbled her mother, but it's very unnatural to bother with humankind. As a unicorn who lives among humans, I am slightly offended by that attitude. Have nothing to do with people, the elder giants advised Gina. Small, stupid creatures, frightened by a boulder thrown or a sheep carried off. Nonetheless, on clear days, young Gina would sit on a rock at the lower edge of the forest, watching the people below going about their daily work. It seemed to Gina that humans had a splendid time. The maidservants especially caught her attention, moving about from dairy to stream, laughing together as they worked. That work is so easy I could do it with one hand, thought Gina, and so many kinds of food just for the taking. Gina loved to eat. Have you ever traveled to a place where the food was different than the food you were used to? One of my favorite parts about traveling, even if it's just to a different part of New Jersey, is trying a new food that I might not have had otherwise, or even if it's just to a friend's house where maybe the food that they eat is a little different from the food that I normally eat. And the giant Gina is very excited to try human food and learn all kinds of other things about humans. She was also quite stubborn. Once she had made up her mind to go down to the village below, no one could dissuade her. Her cousins, the mountain trolls, shrilled, "But they are our enemy! You will be killed, and it will serve you right." "You foolish child!" cried her mother in alarm. "Mark my words, there will be trouble. No good will come of it." "No good will come of it," warned the uncles, the aunts, and all the rest of the giants. But they were quite wrong. One day, Gina, hop-skipping over the boulders, came down the mountain to the village. At the first two houses, where she stopped to ask for work, she had no luck at all. Can you imagine a giant showing up at your door and asking for some work? Or any other kind of a favor? You might be scared of the giant, and that would make it very hard for you to help them. At the third house, the mistress looked at the very tall, strongly built girl with the large, round head and thought, "Here's a bargain indeed. An odd-looking country girl, but she'll do very well for chopping wood and pounding the wash." She told Gina to come right in. Gina bent down, ducking her head to enter the house. Such queer, tiny houses, thought she, doorways much too small, roofs much too low for comfort. Gina was set to work at once, but it was not many days before the mistress regretted having taken in this strange girl. Gina chopped wood with a will, but so violently that chunks of wood flew in all directions. One struck a rooster stone dead. One sent a dog yowling off in surprise. Another whacked a cart horse so sharply that he bolted off, spilling rounds of cheese right and left. If I'd been there, I might have grabbed one of those wheels of cheese and taken it home for myself. Do you like cheese? Then she carried such huge armloads of wood into the house that the door burst right off the hinges. Set to work with a tub of wash at the stream, she pounded the laundry so thoroughly that all the clothes and linens came out in rags. To make matters worse, Gina ate more than all the other servants put together. Even between meals, she found her way into the storeroom and sat happily devouring jars of honey, vats of pickles, and long strings of sausages. The mistress brought this tale of woe to her husband, a merchant. "She is impossible," cried the mistress. "We must get rid of her. When she washes pots, she grinds holes in them. When she washes dishes, she breaks half of them. If she sits on my chairs, they collapse. No, I can't keep her a day longer. She'll be the ruin of us." But if Gina was greedy about food, the merchant was miserly about money. "She's powerfully strong, and we pay her no wages," he pointed out to his wife, for Gina knew nothing of money or wages. That wasn't really fair of the merchant and his wife. They were not paying Gina to do work that anyone else they would have paid, because they knew she didn't know what money was. "We could never get a village girl to work for us without payment. And where could we find one half so strong? Gina is twice as strong as a man. I'll find work for her." So although the mistress complained bitterly about the havoc Gina caused and wanted to get rid of her at once, the merchant insisted she be kept on. He set Gina to heavy outdoor work, carrying bales of hay to the barn. But Gina thought it fun to toss the bales into the hayloft, and if she knocked down a farmhand in the process, she merely roared with laughter. If a horse kicked her, she gave the animal a powerful kick right back. All this caused such an uproar in the barnyard that the merchant quickly set Gina to unloading the fishing boats that came to his wharf. Here, she did the work of 2 or 3 men. Delighted with such a strong and willing worker, the merchant used Gina everywhere, from sausage and cheese making to building a new storage barn. In the new barn, he had Gina build a room and bed of her own, before the mistress declared that she was not fit to live in a house. The merchant, however, rubbed his hands in satisfaction, thinking of the money he was saving. And what about Gina? Gina was enjoying herself. The heavy work did not bother her at all. She joined in the village dances, even though she swung her partners with such vigor that they whirled away across the field. After that, partners were hard to find, but still, everything new fascinated her. Although she thought humans most peculiar in their ways, she marveled at their cleverness. In the spring, the merchant prepared to sail down to Bergen on a trading voyage. His wife announced that she would go with him. Just before they set sail, she took Gina aside and said sharply, "I don't want to find you here when we return. I advise you to go back to wherever you came from." Then she quickly joined her husband aboard the ship, and they sailed away down the fjord with a stiff breeze. Gina was left on shore with the village folk who had turned out to see the merchant off. Next to her stood 2 maidservants from the village. "Wish you were going with them, Gina," said one. "Save the money they pay you and you can go to Bergen yourself someday." "Money they pay me?" repeated Gina in surprise. "Your wages for working," said the other. "I noticed you never spend any money. You must have a nice little sum hidden away." "They never gave me any money for working," said Gina. The 2 girls laughed at her. "You worked almost a year for nothing?" "Greedy old man," said the other. "No wonder he's so rich." When Gina finally understood that all the other country girls were paid, her eyes became quite red with anger. She stalked back to the merchant's place. There she sat down and thought for a long time. "Payment I shall have," she said finally. "I'll take it myself." At once she set to work. She pulled out an old cart from the barn and loaded it with all the things she had decided to take with her. In went a cock and a hen, an axe, nails. She knew what she needed for the success of her plan. And when the cart was filled, she didn't forget to toss in a round wheel of cheese, a crock of pickles, and several strings of her favorite sausages. Then she pulled the loaded cart up the mountain until she reached the high pine forests, the land of the trolls and giants. Swinging the axe with gusto, she soon converted trees into the framework of a tall 1-room house. She made sure that the doorway was big and wide and the roof high enough for a full-grown giant. Next to it was a fenced-in yard for the cock and hen. From time to time, the giants and trolls came by to watch her work and to gape in astonishment at such mad activity. "Poor Gina," they said to each other. "She's become as crazy as a loon living with humans all that time. I knew no good would come of it." But again, they were quite wrong. When Gina had finished all her work, the first frost sparkled on the ground and the smell of snow was in the air. She now had a tall house made of logs, snug against the winter cold. She had an open hearth, a stack of firewood, a big, solid chair, a large bed covered with fur pelts, chickens safely housed in a lean-to, rounds of cheese made from wild goat and reindeer milk, sausages and wild boar hams hanging from the rafters. By the time the heavy snow had settled on the mountain, even the sour trolls had to admit that the warm log house was better than a cave or a deep underground hole. It dawned on the folk of the forest that Gina was not crazy at all. She was, in fact, very clever. And what better dowry could a young giant girl have than a snug hut and strings of fragrant sausages? All the giant folk now called her Clever Gina, and as the winter thawed into spring, Gina was besieged with offers to marry. Perhaps I'll marry or perhaps I won't, she said carelessly. I'll think about it. And since the young giants were very eager to bring her rabbits or wild boar and other game in exchange for eggs, cheese, or the loan of her axe, it seemed to Gina that thinking about it was a very good business arrangement indeed. And that is the end of the story of the curious and clever Gina. I hope that you enjoyed it. As we said at the beginning of this virtual story time, we are going to go ahead and break for a unicorn dance party now. So get on your feet and get ready to dance with me and Jonathan Van Unicorn. And again, this song has a lot to do with the story that we read this morning during virtual story time. So if you have questions about any of the words you hear in the song, go back and take a look at that story time, and I think that will help you answer some of them. As always, Jonathan Van Unicorn and I are delighted to have been here with you. We are here every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 2 p.m. We also have virtual bedtime stories on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. So please come and join us again soon. Dance time.
With the crowns and castles crowned, they frowned at him and said, sorry, you're not allowed. So Dave found some dress-up wings and brought them to share and play. And everyone agreed to take turns being a princess for the day. Princesses are for everyone. Make-believe is for everyone. Getting dirty, playing outside is for everyone. We do the things we like to do because everyone likes to have fun, and having fun is for everyone. Amy wanted to catch frogs at the lake in all the mud. The kids said, no, your shoes will get dirty. You can't keep up with